6:19 a.m. The Caribbean Sea looked calm, quiet, and innocent. But 140 miles north of Venezuela, the USS Gerald R. Ford was about to learn that the morning wasn't as peaceful as it appeared. While the carrier sliced through the water, two tiny shapes suddenly appeared on the horizon, cutting across the sky like blades catching sunlight. These weren't tourists flying around for fun. They were moving fast, too fast, and they were coming straight in. On the flight deck, sailors stopped mid-task as a faint roar grew louder, shredding the silence. Heat shimmered off the ocean when two Venezuelan K8W attack jets burst through the haze, skimming barely a couple thousand feet above the waves. No message, no identification, nothing, just a bold, aggressive entry. They swung across the Ford's bow in a tight, low pass meant to send a message. But intimidation only works if the other side takes the bait. The Ford didn't even twitch. Inside the bridge, the commanding officer watched them calmly through his binoculars. "Hold course," he said, not a hint of concern in his voice. The lead jet yanked upward into a fiery climb, afterburners blazing, leaving a trail of smoke glowing in the morning sun. The wingman followed, its wings wobbling slightly, too risky, too low, too quick, and far too close to a 100,000-ton nuclear carrier armed with radar that could track something as small as a tennis ball from dozens of miles away. Down in the Combat Information Center, controllers were already watching every move through crystal-clear FLIR imaging. The infrared feed revealed everything. No missiles, no bombs, empty hardpoints. This wasn't an attack. It was a performance, a dare. And dares on open water are dangerous. One wrong move, one extra second of ego, and you're not just buzzing a ship, you're poking a superpower in the chest. By 6:21, the jets finally turned back toward Venezuelan airspace. For a moment, everyone thought that was the end of it. But the sea has a way of staying unpredictable. Exactly 2 minutes later, the radar scopes changed, and what started as a simple stunt was about to escalate. Inside the Combat Direction Center, only the glow of screens lit the room. The operators leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the new contacts. Two Venezuelan K8WS, known. But now, something off. "Combat, we have a new radar return. Bearing 217. High speed. Gaining altitude. Another pair. For total. All heading directly toward the Ford strike group." The watch officer stepped closer. "Plot the track. Check for IFF. IFF negative. They're not answering any calls." The room went silent. Only the hum of electronics filled the air. But no one froze. No one panicked. They'd rehearsed this situation more times than they could count. Up on deck, Air Wing 8 came alive. Two FA-18E Super Hornets rolled into position. Yellow shirts signaled them forward. Catapult crews dropped low, ready to fire the jets straight into the sky. Hornet 1, wings set, trim adjusted for takeoff, signaling ready. The pilot lifted his thumb, and that was all the deck crew needed. The shooter swept his hand downward, and in the next instant, a violent burst of power exploded off the carrier's bow. A flash of metal, a sonic roar, and Hornet 1 was airborne. The second Super Hornet launched right behind it, both tearing into the sky as the Ford's tower tracked their climb. They rolled into formation almost immediately, banking left toward the cluster of hostile radar returns approaching fast. Their orders were direct: intercept the contacts, identify their intent, and calm things down if possible. Inside the operations center, the big main screen showed everything unfolding second by second. The distance was collapsing rapidly: 60 miles. 50. 42. Bridge, this is combat. Recommendation: Titan escort screen. Move destroyers Mason and Thomas Hudner forward. Approved. Maintain speed. Maintain heading. The Ford kept moving exactly as before. No dodge, no deviation. To an outsider, it might look like the carrier was provoking the situation. To the U.S. Navy, it was simply discipline, a silent reminder carried by American carriers for decades. We don't change course for intimidation. By 6:26, the Hornets were climbing through 15,000 feet, sunlight firing across their wings, engines roaring through the clear Caribbean morning. What they were about to face would prove that none of this was accidental. At that altitude, the sun lit the jets like molten metal. The Super Hornets carved through the sky, pushing eastward toward the unknown. Inside the cockpit, the lead pilot, call sign Viper 1, studied his radar display. For contacts, tight spacing, climbing in altitude. Control, this is Viper 1. Confirm bandits. For tracks, bearing 217, Angels 16. Viper 1, control. Affirmative. Positive ID. Venezuelan K8WS. Rules of engagement. Remain defensive only. Understood. We'll keep it disciplined. Miles below them, the Ford looked like a tiny gray sliver on the water, flanked by its destroyers in a flawless diamond formation. The carrier's SPY 3 radar painted the entire sky with precision, feeding every number, speed, climb rate, vector, straight into the Hornets. Systems. By 6:28, the first pair of Venezuelan K8WS burst through a thin cloud sheet, leaving long contrails that sliced across the blue sky. Viper 1 to approaching aircraft. Identify yourselves. You are nearing a United States carrier. Strike group operating in international airspace. Silence. Then a reply. Thick accent, tense tone. U.S. aircraft, you are entering Bolivarian territory. Turn away now. Suddenly, the Venezuelan jets tore across the Hornets' noses at nearly 400 knots. One passed so close that Viper 1's helmet display flashed a bright proximity alert. Careful with spacing, Viper 2 warned over comms. Viper 1 steadied himself. We're not here to play games. Keep eyes on them. Down on the Ford, every radar operator watched the near miss in high resolution. The flight paths crossing within mere seconds of a collision. Bridge, this is combat. Venezuelan aircraft are conducting unsafe maneuvers. Copy. Maintain calm posture. No change in course. By now, there was no confusion left. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was provocation, clear, intentional bait. At 17,000 feet, the Super Hornets moved into shadowing position, trailing the Venezuelan jets like controlled predators tracking a reckless pack. The sky above was bright, but the tension was sharp. Thin clouds drifted beneath them, and the Caribbean stretched out in endless blue below. On Viper 1's FLIR display, the Venezuelan K8WS drifted even closer together, pulling their formation tighter. They weren't carrying missiles, but the empty hardpoints beneath. Their wings caught the sunlight, meant to look threatening, nothing more. Control, they're cutting across our flight path again. Range 800 meters. Copy that. Maintain shadow position. Keep recording. High above them, the Ford's E-2D Hawkeye orbited like a watchful guardian, funneling its radar feed straight into the Hornets' helmets. Every drift of the enemy jets, every slight change in speed or angle, was logged and analyzed instantly. Below, the carrier's crew stood silent, watching the evolving situation like a live-action strategy map. Then one of the Venezuelan pilots snapped his jet into a hard left turn, breaking formation without warning. The maneuver was sharp, too sharp, and dangerously low. It sliced right across Viper 2's nose. Viper 2's voice remained perfectly steady. Ford control, hostile just performed a close pass. Distance 200 meters. Inside the Ford's combat direction center, the SPY 3 radar drew every moment in crisp detail, plotting their positions with surgical accuracy. On the main tactical board, the distance between the carrier and the intruding jets dropped to 6 miles. Bridge, this is combat. Recommend bringing SeaRAM to ready status. Affirmative. Keep weapons cold. The K8WS looped back again, closing even tighter than before, too close. Their next sweep would put the aircraft only seconds away from a catastrophic mistake. 6:32 hours. In the Ford's Combat Information Center, every console glowed with data streams. Operators tracked for bright red symbols twisting across the screen over a blue outline of the strike group. On the bridge, there was no shouting, no panic, just controlled concentration. Contacts now 12 miles, one radar tech reported. Speed steady, high subsonic. Copy, the tactical action officer replied. SeaRAM to warm standby. CIWS manual control. Up on the deck, sailors tilted their heads toward the sky. They couldn't see much, just distant specks, but the tension was unmistakable. Every vibration rolling through the steel hull, every coded comm message, told them the situation was escalating. The Gerald R. Ford held course at 20 knots, cutting north-northwest. Ahead of her, destroyers Mason and Thomas Hudner tightened their formation, creating a shield of steel in front of the carrier. Electronic warfare systems hummed quietly, subtly clouding enemy sensors, just enough to distort any targeting data. On the flight deck, operations continued in high gear. Fuel hoses snapped onto lines. Deck crew flashed hand signals, and the catapult crews stood ready for a second wave of jets if the call came. Still, no fear, no chaos, just a professional calm that almost felt eerie. Inside CIC, a measured voice finally broke the quiet. "Bridge, this is combat. Contacts now at 8 miles and still closing." The Ford's captain stepped forward, eyes locked on the radar feed, tracking every move as the situation inched toward a breaking point. "Maintain heading. Maintain speed." The captain's voice carried through the bridge like a command carved into steel. This wasn't pride, and it wasn't stubbornness. It was U.S. Navy doctrine. An American carrier does not shift course because someone wants to provoke a reaction. If we start moving every time a jet tries to show off, the captain says evenly, then the ocean stops respecting our flag. Outside, the Venezuelan K8W kept pushing closer, skimming so low that their shadows rippled across the surface of the Caribbean like dark blades. Then the lead jet suddenly rolled upside down, barely 1,000 feet up, and dove straight toward the strike group. His wingman followed, slicing downward like a thrown knife. From the Ford's bridge windows, the maneuver looked insane. A show of force pushed well past the line of safety. "Bridge, this is combat. Contacts now 5 miles out, altitude dropping rapidly." Deep below deck, the Phalanx CIWS turret snapped to life. Its twin 20mm barrels tracked the plunging aircraft with machine precision. The sensors locked on instantly, faster than a human blink. Only a single digital command kept it from firing. "Stand by." Up above, Viper 1 and Viper 2 tilted their helmets toward the incoming jets, their cameras recording every moment. Up above, Viper 1 and Viper 2 tilted their helmets toward the incoming jets, their cameras recording every moment. Viper 1 could actually see the Venezuelan pilot's expression through the canopy, visor gleaming, jaw clenched, hands shaking on the controls. "Ford control, they're closing hot. Range 1.2 miles. Copy. Hold position. Do not escalate." Then it happened. The first K8W screamed over the destroyer Mason's bow, engines howling. The turbulence from its wings slammed into the water like a thunderclap, rocking the ship, and with barely any separation. The jet skimmed above Viper 2, maybe 600 feet between them, if that. "Ford Tower, that's unsafe maneuvering." Viper 2 snapped. "That was a near miss. Maintain discipline." The reply came back, calm enough to feel unreal. The Hornets didn't flinch. No radar locks. No warning tones. No aggressive moves. They simply drifted behind the Venezuelans, stalking them with cold precision. Aboard the Ford, the SeaRAM rotated silently, sensors glued to the targets, waiting for a command that never came. Every ship in the formation felt the tension like a weight pressing down. 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds where both sides hovered on the razor's edge of disaster. Then, as if deciding the game was over, the Venezuelan jets pulled upward, banking away. Their engines faded into the southern horizon, leaving the sky unnervingly quiet. But no one breathed easy yet. By 6:37, the radar scopes shifted. The hostile aircraft, once charging right at the carrier, now broke apart. One jet angled back toward Venezuelan airspace. The other lingered, circling wide, staying just long enough to make everyone wonder if he wanted one more dramatic pass. "Bridge to combat. Contact 1 is breaking off. Contact 2 holding steady at 9,000 feet. Roger. Keep them on scope. Maintain posture." Inside the Ford's Combat Information Center, not a single operator blinks. Every sensor, radar sweeps, optical cameras, infrared feeds, stays locked on the one jet still hanging in their airspace. Even as the targets fade, the system keeps capturing every detail: heat plumes, flight angles, electronic signatures. Nothing slips through the cracks. High above, the Hornets keep a measured distance. "Control, Viper 1. Bogies drifting south, slowing down. No visual weapons." "Copy, Viper 1. Continue shadow. Do not extend beyond 50 miles." Viper 1 watches the smaller jets shrink into the Caribbean haze. For a moment, everything feels still, just the whine of engines and the endless blue beneath him. Then a flicker on his radar breaks the calm. A single spike. One of the Venezuelan aircraft had just painted the carrier group with a targeting radar. Quick, intentional, unmistakable. Ford, be advised, we were pulsed. Copy. Log the hit. No action. The Ford doesn't flinch. No defensive turn. No countermeasure. Just pure discipline and data logging. Minutes later, both jets vanish off radar entirely. The carrier keeps steaming forward, 20 knots. North-northwest, like nothing happened. But the real turbulence hits an hour later. Venezuelan state TV airs shaky footage, claiming their pilots forced a U.S. supercarrier to withdraw. The world sees bravado. The Navy sees fiction. The truth? The Ford never shifted an inch. By noon, the incident is ricocheting across global headlines. Caracas frames it as a routine defense mission. Washington calls the maneuvers reckless and dangerous. The reality lies in that razor-thin space between intimidation and provocation. Inside the Pentagon, analysts scrub through the FLIR recordings frame by frame. Every radio call, every banking pass, every hair-raising 600-foot near miss is dissected. What they find isn't an attack plan. It's political theater pushed too far. This is gray zone warfare. Probing, testing boundaries, seeing how close you can come before a superpower reacts. And the Ford didn't react. That restraint carries its own weight. It's not fear, it's control. Pulling the trigger is easy. Not pulling it, that's power. Staying disciplined is the real challenge. That's what stops small stunts from exploding into international disasters. And that's why the Ford isn't just another ship. It's the pinnacle of American naval strength. Electromagnetic launch systems, low-signature design. A battle network that links every eye and ear in the entire strike group. But none of that is her greatest weapon. Her real edge is judgment. Because out here, calm seas can turn violent in a heartbeat. One impulsive reaction, one overconfident pilot, and suddenly the world's most advanced carrier is seconds away from triggering a global headline. The Venezuelan jets wanted to deliver a warning of their own. The Gerald R. Ford answered with something more powerful: silence. The kind of silence only true power can use. Because at sea, dominance isn't measured only by missiles or aircraft. It's defined by patience, by timing, by the discipline to hold steady when everything in your body wants to act. And the Ford demonstrated all of it flawlessly. So let me ask you something. If you were the one in that cockpit, watching two foreign fighters diving at your carrier at full burn, what would you do? Would you stay steady and trust the rules of engagement? Or would you pull the trigger first, just to make sure you get home alive? Tell me in the comments, what call would you make? I actually want to see how you'd handle that moment. And if you've stayed with me all the way to the end, thanks a ton for watching. Hit that like button if you learned something today. Subscribe if you want more stories from the world's oceans. And share this video with someone who thinks an aircraft carrier is just a big ship. And if you want to take it a step further, you can join our channel's fleet, loyalty badges, priority replies, behind-the-scenes perks. All of it helps us keep these real maritime stories coming. Just tap join on our channel page and climb aboard. Because if this incident proved anything, it's this. When you're the most powerful thing on the water, you don't need to raise your voice. See you in the next one.